Hey, welcome back to Everyday Economics, a podcast that helps you learn about the economic world happening around you every day. I'm your host, Chris Krug, president of the 501c3 nonprofit Franklin's Foundation. Everyday Economics, a production of America's Talking Network. You can check out all of our great podcasts at americastalking.com. To support Everyday Economics and podcasts such as this one, please make your tax-deductible charitable contribution by clicking the link in the show description. We are recording today's episode on Tuesday, February 21st. And joining me, as always, is Dr. Orphe Divounguy. He's a PhD economist and a really smart guy. You and I have been talking about consumer debt and sort of underlying, it's like the duck that's swimming on the lake. Everything looks really cool, above the water, and below the water, those legs are going like heck.
Retail sales went up 7%, greater than 7%, 7.2%, something like that in December. Everything's cool. Look the other way. The consumer's healthy. The economy's re-accelerating.
I'm going to throw the stat at you now. You ready? Consumer debt now, and this is from CNBC. I wasn't watching the Canadian Broadcasting Channel last week. This is from CNBC. 16.9 trillion consumer debt. That's not good.
Let me tell you something. We started this pandemic in pretty decent shape. We went into it. We got a lot of money and a lot of stimulus and a lot of wealth. And we paid down a lot of credit card debt. And so we were in really, really good shape at the start of this tightening cycle back in, when did the Fed start raising rates? I feel like it's forever ago because it's been painful.
We're at a year well above the anniversary.
And let me tell you something. Since then, it has been a battle because, you had inflation. They started and inflation kept rising. Inflation peaked at above 9% in May or June, I think. And since then, it's come down. We're still at about 6.4% now.
So we talk about people navigating their way through this, whatever this is. I've talked about it as a recession. Of course, we had a quote unquote technical recession. There's the fact of the matter. Some people are not making it through this. And the way that they're spending and the way they're basically out kicking their income is getting kind of scary.
I thought about it and I decided to go look at TransUnion data. The TransUnion Consumer Pulse for Q4 2022 says consumers turn to credit and home equity to maintain stability. That was their headline. Credit card balances have grown to a record level at the end of 2022. 18.5% was the year-over-year growth in quarter four. 25% of household surveys saw a decrease in household income. Decrease. We don't really talk about decreasing household income.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think we're going to be talking about it a lot more.
Yeah, I know. With the layoffs that we're seeing. Which, by the way, I want to say layoffs is still somewhat low. But the question is, are they really? The fact the unemployment claims hasn't increased doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't, there was 257,000 tech workers that were laid off in the last couple of months, right? But anyway, you got 29% of people in the TransUnion Consumer Pulse survey that were unable to pay at least one of their current bills and loans in full. That's a big number. 1 in 4.
That's a huge number. I mean,
that's a huge number.
I read this piece, not to interrupt you again, but I just read this piece where the average new car purchased last year was about $48,000. You got a lot of people that are out there running around with $800, $900, $1,000, $1,200 car payments right now.
Mortgages on wheels. But so I wanted to know, who's driving? Because, I wanted to know because we have this fear that inflation might not be coming down as fast as expected. We're seeing retail sales take up in January. We see, right? So I wanted to know who's actually driving the spending.
We'll get into this. Tell us what we need to know.
It's Gen Z, man.
Okay. It's always
Gen Z consumers in particular.
Can I not blame the millennials for this?
Can't blame the millennials this time, Chris.
Man.
Gen Z consumers increasingly turning to bank cards, showing balances, year-over-year growth in balances of up to 64%. It's a mix of high prices and interest on debt rising that is causing these credit card balances to increase a lot. Older consumers, on the other hand, especially those with less than $100,000 a year in household income, are concerned and pulling back big time. And so this is what's happening right now, under the surface. And one of the reasons I believe disinflation is still here is, of course, that most consumers are planning to cut back on discretionary spending. And that's even reflected in the TransUnion Consumer Poll survey.
What does that look like just to the average eye? How will we know when that's occurred? Will there be more sales at the retail, like at the places where we buy stuff? Where's the consumer see this happen?
For sure. I mean, look, inventory accumulating so fast and consumers not having staying purchasing power. It's going to mean that prices are going to have to come down, which is why I really believe that disinflation is underway, contrary to what some people are saying out there after the January jobs report. I think the labor market is essentially helping a consumer that's barely treading water. That's what I think is going on. And so, I think we're going to start to see prices come down faster when it's all said and done. And so be careful what you wish for, right? Because I know you're watching your stocks. It happens very quickly often. I've been an advocate of the Fed being very careful, very, very careful, because it happens very quickly. The Fed does not have a very good record when it comes to soft landings. And so it's time to be very careful. We have to bring down inflation, but we also have to make sure that we're not crushing the consumer completely. But if we continue to raise interest rates or we do too rapidly, given the lag impact of monetary policy, we could end up pushing this economy into a recession. And it would be really sad for me to see this labor market deteriorate, given how it's done for people who have groups that have historically been left behind.
Well, the next Fed meeting isn't until March 21st, and so we'll have to see what comes of that. Appreciate the thoughts, Orphe Divounguy. This has been Chris Krug. Subscribe to Everyday Economics and dozens of other quality podcasts at americastalking.com.